Hello everybody, Andy from Glass Half Dead here, and today I'm doing a Patreon questions and answers video, because that's right, I do in fact have a Patreon, and I figured I should give something back to them that is a little bit more public than what I usually do. And so hey, if you like having your questions answered by me once a month, I'm now going to do a Patreon Q&A video. Right, let's crack on with it, shall we? Anything else? What are all these models? Here's my Chaos Cultists from Ashes of Faith, because don't forget that you can just buy these models already. And the one thing that I always stress so much about is hobby and getting things done in time. So I've bought the models because I already have a Chaos 40k army, so seemed like a solid purchase. So I've already put a few little details on them. Cool. This board, I had set this out because I was going to play a game, but then I didn't have time over the long weekend in England because of the coronation of the king, the corpse emperor, if you will. So I don't know, that's about it. That's all that's going on here. Everything else is just a mess. Nice. Just like my life and my mental state. Okay, so first up from Phil Johnson, aka Tabletop Impulse, if you're aware of that channel, go check it out. Asks, Warhammer 40,000, sorry to clarify, I have not read these yet. This is live, hot off the press, and if I take too long to think about it, I will edit out my thought process, right? Warhammer 40,000 totally dominates the wargaming scene with the vast majority of wargaming media talking about it. A factual statement, yes. Over the last couple of months, you have been restructuring your channel, and arguably your life. We are currently filming in my bedroom. Or what used to be my bedroom until I decided I'd rather it be a Warhammer recording studio, and my bed is now in my kitchen. Good point. Good point, Phil. Good point. Yes. In anticipation of jumping on board the 40k monolith, how do you feel about this? Yeah, I mean, I do want to buy a Necron monolith, so spot on. Do you ever worry the other games will get lost in the shuffle, even smaller GW games? How do I feel about it? So, yeah, I mean, there's no denying it. Warhammer 40k is very much a monolith of the industry, if you will. But it doesn't have a monopoly. It's a monolith, not a monopoly. And I think that's very important to remember. It does not stop people from playing other games. In fact, and I think this is very factual, if Warhammer 40,000 did not exist, there would be far fewer people playing war games in general. Because for whatever reason, 40k has sparked enough of an interest among people outside of people that would want to play war games otherwise, that they are over there and playing 40k. And you might look at how much is out there and think, oh, if only 40k wasn't there, all of these people would be playing Mantic Dead Zone, would be playing Star Wars Shatterpoint, would be playing Corvus Belli Infinity, would be playing whatever. And it's just not true, obviously. For example, 9th edition brought a huge influx of computer game players. If we look at big channels like, you know, Adeptus Ridiculous, massive podcast, but it's only massive because it came from outside of the Warhammer community. It came from a computer gaming channel, Bricky, and to a lesser extent, Adeptus Ridiculous, but other ones, Magikarp. I don't watch him, sorry, but I do watch Bricky. So like, it's not as simple and a sum as if there was no 40k, everything else would be the same size but more evenly distributed. 40k is indeed a black hole, of content and news, and I think that GW has been quite savvy in the way that they have decided to release their content, which is different from every other game out there. And it does mean that there is a constant churning cycle of news, and it is just all GW. Especially now with 10th edition, because yes, I don't know what time I'm releasing this, but the video before or the video after this is also going to be a Star Wars Shatterpoint video, where I openly say I do not have the time to cover this properly because of 10th edition, which is really sad for me because I would like to be honest. Interestingly, Tabletop Impulse has just added me on Discord as I'm answering his question in a Patreon Q&A. So I don't know, I have very conflicting thoughts about it. Would I like more people to play games that are not 40k? Yes, of course. Would I want 40k to go away? Probably not. And I simply don't think that anything else out there, with or without 40k, has the oomph that it needs to expand into other areas that 40k has managed to expand into. There you go. Talking about, is 40k cannibalizing its own products from GW? Yes, but that's just the nature of the beast. Have to deal with it. Also though, I would say, Games Workshop, if you look at their content, you know how everybody always says, oh, there are so many Space Marines, but there are so many Space Marines because people buy Space Marines, but also people buy Space Marines because GW puts out so many Space Marines. If you look at the content they put out, Warhammer Community does push every other game they put out really hard and completely ignores the reality of how popular that game is. If you're just into Warcry or Underworlds and you just look at the Warcom page, up to your release you get a lot of stuff, and Warhammer World puts up their tournaments, and what else can GW do? You know, it's already rumoured that like the big events over in America, you know, run by FLG, don't want to run Age of Sigmar tournaments, but GW says, no, you have to. If you want our support, you have to run Age of Sigmar tournaments. But FLG and such only care about 40k. So I genuinely think that GW has very little control over what their customers do. And so I would say don't look at Games Workshop as the evil here. They're giving people what they want, and people want 40k. So, yeah. Whew. Ed Handley. The X-Wing boom was fueled by pre-painted minis, new material, Rebels, etc., for the IP, and strong organised play competently driven by the company behind the game. Which of these elements do you think would most benefit Kill Team if GW were willing to adopt them? Pre-painted minis, next question. Is that even like, obviously. If Games Workshop were to put out their own X-Wing quality level of pre-painted models, it would open up a whole new avenue to them. Yeah, yeah, there you go. A lot of people for 40k, etc., games, etc., GW games, they play for the hobby. They don't even play the game. And that's cool, that's one side of it, but if you just look at the board game crowd, the D&D crowd, whatever, that is a huge market. And if you suddenly gave GW quality miniatures with acceptable looking paint jobs, be massive. Like it would be huge. There you go. Although with that said, let me take a step back. That's me looking at things from a gameplay. I like the mechanics of games. I like to play games. I like to have that social aspect because of games, and I get that real life in-person interaction because of games and mechanics. The biggest thing that will drive more stuff into Games Workshop is what they're currently doing with stuff like Henry Cavill doing some big push for GW and Warhammer 40k. That is going to get more actual just numbers, eyes on a screen than anything else, which they are doing, so that's cool. But if you want to think about more people playing the game, then yeah, pre-painted minis. I just imagine that the conversion rate from, you know, if GW says, hey guys, look at Henry Cavill being an Inquisitor in whatever, in Games Workshop's Inquisitor, or whatever it's called, right? That's going to get a lot and, you know, millions of eyes on the IP. But how many of those are going to convert to people playing Kill Team? Very slim. But if you put out games, you know, pre-painted minis, you're going to get a far, far, far smaller amount of eyes on the IP, but the number of people that convert into playing the game significantly higher. There you go. Gin of the Sheep. Do you think Kill Team's relative popularity was a result of fringe 40k players being disenchanted with 9th edition? That's a tough one. I don't... In the last edition of Kill Team, yes, I think that was a thing, and because it was quite clearly an edition based around getting people from Kill Team into 40k, but likewise it worked the other way. If you were starting to become a touch disenfranchised with 40k, you could drop down and play Kill Team. An easier, faster way to play the game. However, this edition... Sorry, I have to... What am I answering? Disenchanted with 9th. I think that there's been a lot of discontent in the last 6 months to year of 9th edition. I don't think that many people have gone from 9th to Kill Team. Likewise, I don't think that many people have gone from Kill Team to 9th. The two games are very incompatible, and I think that the only link, obviously, is the IP and the models. Yeah. Now, you know, going into 10th, I think that a lot of Kill Team players are looking at 10th as like a hard reset. Codexes are gone, you get free rules, you already have models that are going to have data sheets in 10th. So suddenly, you can say, oh, I've got my commando team, and oh, all I have to do is buy a combat patrol and I'm playing 10th. Awesome. I think that a lot of us are looking at going that way, but I don't think it's been a thing up until now. Certainly when looking at running tournaments, there hasn't been a huge crossover. I don't think people have tournament organisers have really felt, oh, we can't run a Kill Team and a 40k event at the same time because everyone will go to the 40k event instead of the Kill Team event. I think they are very separate demographics. Given the release of Combat Patrol format, do you anticipate that reducing the growing player base? Yeah, I mean, maybe, for sure. I can definitely say, no. I think the release of 10th edition will do that. I don't think Combat Patrol specifically is going to have an effect on that. It's entirely possible that Kill Teamers will buy the Combat Patrol as their first step into 40k. But I think the edition itself will either knock people back or propel people forwards. I don't think Combat Patrol specifically will do that. I think Combat Patrol is just a stepping stone. Yeah, there you go. How popular is Kill Team? This is still Gin and the Sheep. How popular is Kill Team? I know it's tough to find out, but are we in the community a bit deluded into thinking it's more popular than it really is? How popular is Kill Team? We don't really have many metrics to look at these sorts of things. It's very difficult to find out. It's very, very difficult to also then decide in what format you care. So for example, as someone that creates content for Kill Team, a content cuck, if you will, I care about how many people are watching Kill Team far more than I care about how many people are playing Kill Team. And I don't really care how many people are buying Kill Team compared to playing it, right? So GW doesn't care if you're playing Kill Team as long as they're selling boxes. They're fine with it. And likewise, GW doesn't really care if people are watching it on YouTube as long as people are, you know, talking about it and buying their boxes. Whereas I don't really care if people are playing Kill Team as long as I have like one opponent, as long as they're watching my content, I'm going to think it's the most popular game around, right? And then how many people want to talk about it doesn't mean how many people are playing it. For example, you can talk about 40k till the cows come home because there's a lot of list building. You never need to put models on the board and you can still be an active participant in the game. The meta game, if you will. And I think a lot of people are fueled by that far more than they are by putting models on the table. So how popular is Kill Team? I can't give you a good answer. We will never know sales data. Rumour has it that it sells better than Age of Sigmar, but what metric are they using? Because they're only selling like 3 boxes of Gallodark. Are they saying they're only making 3 boxes of Age of Sigmar, but the 3 boxes for Age of Sigmar aren't selling out? I don't know. Are they saying that the entirety of every Kill Team branded product is selling more than the entirety of the Age of Sigmar universe? That's insane if so. I don't know. Are they talking proportionately? The percentage thing? I don't know. Likewise, if you just want to look at views on YouTube, 40K has a significantly larger, not just number of channels, and therefore more people watching even small channels than Kill Team. But if you look at the big channels, there are, you've got battle reports for 40K that are over 1 million views. As far as I'm aware, the highest viewed Kill Team video is around 200K. Maybe it's hit 250K these days. So maybe Kill Team's a quarter the size of 40K. But again, those are completely different demographics. The people that want to watch 40K are very different from the people that want to play 40K or play Kill Team or watch Kill Team, right? Because Kill Team is a much more playable game in the sense of it's smaller, more inclusive, there's a word. You're probably going to get more people percentage-wise playing the game than watching the content, unlike 40K, because 40K is a huge endeavor. So you're going to just naturally have more people that are going to sit down and say, I'm just going to watch a game be played because I don't have time to play it myself. Unlike Kill Team, where more people are going to have time to actually play the game because it's faster to play and cheaper, etc. And then you can also look at like Reddit stats, how many people are signed up to the 40K Reddit versus the Kill Team Reddit. Is that relevant to you? Do you care about that number? Well, I'll tell you this, it's a hell of a lot more signed up to the 40K Reddit than the Kill Team Reddit, but what does it mean? Don't know. Cool. So I've given you a non-answer there, but that's the only answer there is, or non-answer there is. Finally, we have Revert Ferguson, which I feel like should be Robert Ferguson, but there's a V there. Given the recent Ashes of Faith announcement and narrative rules that come with it, I'd be interested on your take on narrative gaming. What rules make for a good narrative? Since you're not that interested in being competitive, what stopped you engaging with the narrative rules as they currently are in Kill Team? And is it just me, or is the amount that guys have to die and get back up? Okay, cool. So, I thought about this recently. I think that narrative gaming is bad if the only thing you do is view narrative as extra rules. Because that's all GW kind of gives you, right? They give you a mission and like a setup and stuff, but they also give you just page after page of additional rules you can add to your team. And I think that if all you give people is additional rules to add to your team and your existing rules, it's very difficult to look beyond anything other than optimization. And that sounds super dull to me. You know, the obvious one, of course, is like one of the very first pieces of equipment. I can't remember what it's called. But you had the ability to give yourself ceaseless, which is reroll ones on a gun, on an operative. And who are you going to give that to? A dude with a regular las gun, or are you going to give it to the plasma gunner? Your answer is always the plasma gunner. But I think if that's your answer, you shouldn't be playing narrative, right? Yeah. To me, if narrative gaming is just additional rules, that sounds really boring. It's nice that GW gives you a framework, because a lot of people will want to play with others, and not everybody can get regular games in with the same person, so you're progressing it exactly the same way. So I do think that's really good. But it's not what I would consider narrative gaming. For me, narrative gaming can just be the basic team. I don't need extra rules. I don't think that having a relic magazine, which lets me reroll ones or whatever, is any more thematic and fun and fluffy than just the core team, right? I think that, you know, like to me, I want the story to be told on the board. I want attacker defender. I want very, not impossible odds, but for things to clearly be one-sided. and intentionally so. And then you balance it so that it's still possible to win either way, or you say that it's a campaign and look, you're kind of supposed to lose this first mission, but because you play the same person every time you play, you're progressing through a narrative that is more than the sum of its parts. And really you're just using the game as a fun way to tell fanfic. Yeah, there you go. I think fanfic in table format's cool. I don't think additional rules to buff your guys up to being better than they probably should be is cool. And that's it. There you go. That's my harsh stance on narrative gaming. Yeah, read a book. There you go. Since you're not interested in being competitive, what stopped you engaging with the narrative rules as they currently are in Kill Team? As I just said, pointless in my opinion. I'd probably rather just do something else. Not because I'm not competitive, but just because to find someone on exactly the same wavelength as me, Oh, sorry, the alternative would be much harsher, and I don't think GW should do this necessarily. But I think pros and cons to every upgrade is the way to go. So like, hey, you get that reroll ones, cool, but actually, I don't know, it's a corrupted relic instead. And so instead of if you roll a 1, you just die. Instead of 3 mortals, you just die. Something like that, you know? Like that would be more interesting. Or, you know, you get +1 movement, but -1 ballistic skill. I think there should always be a trade-off. And I would lean more towards the trade-off is harsher than the buff, because that should make people that are trying to power game it never take an upgrade, because they will be taking too large of a negative, and therefore you will weed out people that are there to just power game in a narrative setting. They can read a book. I'll go play with my friends that are happy to essentially play terrible models. There you go. And is it just me, or is the amount that guys have to die and get back up in any sort of kill team narrative horribly immersion breaking? Yeah, sure. So obviously that's a real tough one, because they're your guys. You don't really want them to die. So I'm kind of on board with that. Like if I was in a narrative game and I've got my super cool leader that I've given a bunch of upgrades and he's named and I've, you know, he died in one battle and so I cut his arm off or gave him a bandaged arm or something, like, he's my dude. I don't want him to die. So, I don't know, yeah, that's a real tough one, and that's part of an issue with narrative. I don't want my guys to die, which is why I'm much more comfortable playing one-off games. And I can just like my guys for who they are. Yeah. Also, my favourite alien design from any setting or media. So here, this is going to be a bit of a lame answer, but it's also going to be, I guess, true. But I'm fully aware of my foibles here, and that I'm probably just banking on nostalgia and just what I know. But I've always been in and around the Warhammer IP, and I've always been a Blizzard fanboy, until late, obviously. So actually, legit, Tyranids. Yeah. I really like the almost kind of crustacean-like nautical thing, but they're in outer space, coming over from a galaxy unknown, you know, and because we know nothing about them and we can't know anything about them and what they really want, there's always the fun, are they just here to consume biomass? Or, you know, the really fun idea of, are they actually running from something even bigger? Because there's no doubt that Tyranids are the ultimate threat and are what will destroy the Milky Way universe. Galaxy, that's the word. Like 100%, there's nothing more powerful than the entire Hive fleet coming. Although I'm sure they'll screw us in the Leviathan narrative and say, oh, we've defeated Leviathan. Oh, that was easy, wasn't it? Oh, we've set them back 1 billion years. I don't know. But yeah, really cool. And then, of course, that ties in with Blizzard, because, of course, Blizzard practically just copied them when they did StarCraft. But I'm cool with that, because I think they're really awesome. If you look at the Leviathan artwork, it's obviously a warrior? I don't know what it is. It's not, is it the Tyranid Prime? A Leaper? Huh. I actually don't know what the Tyranid model on the front of the Leviathan artwork is. Is it just a Termagant? Oh, I don't know. I'll have to go look into that, actually. Start a a fiery, heated debate on my Discord about what is that model. But you know what that looks like to me? That's just straight up a Hydralisk from StarCraft. Like legit. I'm going to go Photoshop the two models to be right next to each other because Blizzard have done the same. They've done a Hydralisk face, which is obviously just copied from a Tyranid. But now, obviously, in Leviathan, GW's done the same. They've just taken half a face of a Tyranid. But I don't know which one. So yeah, so obviously that hits a lot of things for me, nostalgia-wise, also from a thematic perspective. Are they like actually, do I like love crustaceans? No, that'd be weird. But I thought about this, I can't really think of another one that really gets me going. A lot of them do tend to be bug-based because that's a nice easy one. And then I've looked into, you know, because I'm a bit of a sci-fi nerd, aren't I? I've looked into other things that try to really break the mold and not be like insect-based, and like and authors or whoever that explore outside of things that kind of prey on our fears, like insects, fungus, etc. Like what would those be and how would those evolve? And I don't know, I just don't connect with them because I grew up on Tyranids and Zerg and that sort of stuff. And so that's what I think is cool. And that's it, there you go. So this has been, that's it, those are all the questions. Hey, if you'd like your own questions answered, consider signing up to my Patreon, and once a month I will do a Patreon Q&A. Stay hydrated. I'm so thirsty. Do you know why I say that at the end of all of these videos? Because I have to talk for like half an hour. And I'm like, oh my God, I really need a drink. Because I don't talk otherwise. If I'm not recording a video, I don't talk. So this is very odd for me. All right, well, thank you very much for watching, everybody. This has been Andy from Glass Half Dead, answering my Patreon's Q&As. And hey, I'd just like to say a huge shout out to all of my patrons. Very genuinely. Obviously, all of this, the idea that I could do this, this other channel, Full Scale Wargaming, and put more time and effort into Warhammer content is purely because of them. And the support that they've given me, both emotionally and monetarily. So thank you to them, and if you do want to help me out, consider signing up to be a patron. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Hydrate.